Hi, this is Brad Brown, and I wanted to share with you the Christmas routine that I developed for the Christmas Town event, and I plan on taping it in front of a live audience yesterday so you could see it. Unfortunately, we were short-handed, so I just wasn't able to make that happen, but I still wanted to show you what the routine was like, so I'm going to tape it for you without an audience here. The routine does require a couple of volunteers, so at that point I'm going to have to get a little creative, but it should still be good enough for you to see, at least get an idea of what the routine looks like. It goes like this. Everyone knows the Christmas story, or at least they think they do. Mary and Joseph traveled to Bethlehem, where Jesus was born and placed in the manger. Shepherds heard the news from angels, and wise men came bearing gifts. But the truth is, there's much more to it than what we're told in storybooks. So you know the part about Jesus in the manger. As was the custom, he was swaddled. He would have been wrapped in a square of cloth, perhaps something like this, which would have been secured by tying 2 or more strips of cloth around him to hold everything together. And we won't even talk about what they did for diapers. But this was no ordinary baby. Truth is, this baby lying in the manger was actually God himself. He chose to humble himself and leave heaven and come to earth in the form of a human baby. So if a book were to tell everything, it would have to begin much earlier. Before the wise men and shepherds, before the angels, before the manger, even before the journey to Bethlehem. In fact, if it were to tell everything, it would have to start at the very beginning of time, and even sooner if such a thing is possible. Because this baby in the manger is actually the same God who created the entire world in 6 days. It's where the Gospel of John begins, as a matter of fact. Of course, the story didn't end in the manger either. Mary, Joseph, and Jesus stayed in Bethlehem for some time. To support his family, Joseph must have worked his trade as a carpenter, which can be done anywhere. Although no one would have realized it at the time, Joseph's work with wood actually foreshadowed Jesus' future. Now, there were many in Israel who were expecting a Messiah, but they were looking for someone who would set them free from Rome and restore the nation of Israel to power. But God had a much bigger plan. I'd like to demonstrate this for you, but I am going to need some people to give me a hand. So, as I scan my imaginary audience, how about you? Would you mind giving me a hand? Perfect. What's your name? Of course, you don't have one because you're imaginary. Alright, would you come stand right over here? There you go. And since you have no hands, allow me to tie this in a knot for you. Perfect. And I'm going to need somebody else. How about you, other inanimate object who happens to be just out of frame? Perfect. Come stand right here. And if you'll hold on to this end for me. Perfect. You see, God wanted to deal with a bigger problem than just, political oppression or a bad government. That problem is sin. Our sin separates us from God, making it impossible for us to have a relationship with Him. And there's nothing that we could do on our own to remove this barrier of sin. This is the real reason why Jesus came. Jesus died on the cross to pay the price for our sin. The punishment from an infinite God is an infinite punishment, you see. So when Jesus died on the cross, He paid that infinite price for our sin that was keeping us apart from God, making it possible for us to once again have a relationship with God and be saved. Then God raised Jesus from the dead, and after a time He returned to heaven. Well, thank you two so much. You can return to your random spots just out of frame. So, if a book were to tell everything, it couldn't stop at the manger or even the cross. In fact, it can't tell the end at all because it isn't over. Each one of us gets to decide how it will end for us. We can choose to put our trust in Jesus and be saved, letting Him wipe the slate clean so that we can begin an eternal relationship with Him. Or we can reject Him and keep living apart from Him. Jesus made the way for us, but the choice is ours. So this Christmas, I hope you remember not just the little piece of the story that we like to tell around the Christmas tree, but I hope you remember the whole story of all that Jesus had done for us. And I hope you have a Merry, Merry Christmas. Thank you.